I hear and I forget, I see and I remember, I do and I understand. Do you think this quote relates somehow to this project?
I believe that the technology does in fact help our CLIL skills improve. To cite a specific example, the other day some of the students were able to pair up individually with small laptops and talk to students from another country, and thus the teacher only functioned as a supervisor just to make sure the lesson was going according to plan, and the student in fact was carrying out the entire lesson, was teaching his or her student partner in the other country, and I thought that was an excellent way of learning. Okay, so now that we've seen the trailer, I want to ask you a couple of questions about it so we can get an idea and start thinking about prehistory. Okay? So my first question for both classes is, what impression does this trailer give you about prehistory? What does it make you think about prehistory? Any of you? Any of you? Don't be so shy.
Should I choose people or should I choose one?
Well, I'll let you go ahead and choose one and give my students 1 second to think.
Okay, well, if it's too difficult, then...
What is the highlight of sharing lessons through web conference? I think that sharing lessons with web conference is a good opportunity to our students to share and improve their English level and try to improve that level, sharing a new type of activities with another students around the world.
If it's correct, hand on your head. If it's incorrect, hand in the air.
Take a look to my class, Gabriel.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting to use the visual aspect, especially when using a webcam, because then the students can interact by moving their bodies, and it makes it more interesting for them. And they are more active, and that's what we try to do with the ICT project. We want to activate the students, and what better way than to make them move, even if it's in their seats.
I gather nuts and berries. Nuts and berries? So is this correct or is this incorrect? Who thinks it's correct? I see hands on some people's heads and I see...
Yes, okay. I feel more comfortable, and at the beginning of this experience I'm a little bit reluctant about using the web conference as a learning tool, but nowadays I think this is a very useful tool to improve my classes and to keep in touch my students with another students. Children and elderly people, what is supposed to be?
Yeah, I think the benefits are overwhelming for both the students and the teachers. I think for students it's a way to motivate them enormously. It's a way for them to practice so much more their English, to have them use what they've learned. They're expanding their horizons, and for teachers it's the same I think. The teachers are able to push their own limits, to explore new possibilities, and I think in the end to make their job more lively, more interesting.
The men are who hunted and protected the group, and women are...
After W is 0. Oh yeah. We saw in your school, it was very shocking for us to see when you go through the corridor and you see the different classrooms and students in the lessons, that some of them have the traditional book and some have tablets or whatever, so they are using different devices, and I think this is perfect. This is what learning should be. Forget about the traditional notebook or textbook and use all the the things you have around you, that are lots of things, lots of sources of information. So we hope this idea can also be in the future possible here, in the very close future, not in the future. We can start saying the same thing to our students. Use your own devices to come here and learn. If not, you can move to the... Here something, yes. So try again.
Then to share the presentation, you can share. Do you understand share? Compartir.
I think it's a good thing for the students to be able to share a lesson with another students and to see the students, because during the previous lesson we had, they were communicating by means of the computer, but without seeing each other. And I think it's much better if they are able to see their faces and to see each other. So I think it's fantastic mainly for students, also for us because it's a completely new thing, but mainly for students because they like to know the face of people they are working with.
I like these lessons because are more fun than the others, and I like working with computers and meet new people from Holland.
Some students were not very good at using the digital technologies, even though considering their age you would expect them to be quite good at it. And I think that's difficult as a teacher of biology to teach them because it's not my proficiency. And I think that the students should be taught this in other, for example, general ICT lessons before you consider doing a project such as this.
I think you have one.
Yeah. Yes.
Hi. Hi. So the Dutch students are now in the lesson.
In my classes I used WhatsApp on the students' phones themselves to supplement the internet connection on the computers because the internet connection wasn't always that good and the students are very familiar with using WhatsApp.
Okay, the four main skills for a teacher to develop in their students are listening is the first, and the second is reading, the third is writing, and the fourth is just speaking. Speaking is very difficult, so they suppose that if we get that the students could speak, it will be fantastic, this project, I think. But because they used to listen a lot of, they have a lot of information and they can read, but for them it's very difficult to write and to speak because they are ashamed of speaking, always ashamed.
Ja, dat wel.
Yes, yes. Not at the moment.
If I could give an advice, I would advise them to improve the internet connection, because sometimes now the connection fails and then students can't make contact and the lesson will fail.
Should it be cross-curricular? I think that would be better. Adding input of not only Dutch and Spanish, for instance, sides, but also of more than one discipline could make it more interesting for students, I think. It makes it more entertaining, and since you are connecting points of view, different points of view into one topic, I think it fits perfectly to a school that's aiming for extracurricular projects. I think it should be there.
One of the most important things of designing a CLIL lesson is making sure that on both sides, the CLIL didactics, how you look at CLIL education is clear. So we paid a lot of attention in this project, in the Improving CLIL Through Technology project, to make sure in Spain and in Holland we think the same way about CLIL education.
There are two kind of web conferences, one-on-one and one class with another class. And I would prefer one-on-one because also the shy people have to talk, so whether you're shy or not, you have to learn something from it.
Okay, now I'm involved in a bilingual class here in Spain, and the other class is in The Hague, in Holland. This class is on some economic aspects of the Industrial Revolution. My Dutch colleague will explain those economic aspects, and I am explaining the historical context.
The ladies at the back are my team 1. Which students over there are team 1?
Okay, students of team 1.
You can also... Boys, say hi. Team 3.
This is opening their minds a lot. They are being able to produce output. It's a different way of teaching. We give them some ideas. They have to be autonomous enough to produce, to communicate, and to learn, not to be embarrassed to speak with different people from other countries. So in their future, they have got lots of different skills.
Our class made presentations about globalization in the 16th and 17th century, and we showed that to students in Spain. And I think it was very educating, because not only they learned about it, because they get to hear something about that period and the globalization at the time, but we learned to improve our English also, because we had to explain the whole thing in English. So it was very hard, but very educating.
At the ECLON we got a course on CLIL didactics, and it became very clear for all the participants that you should really integrate content goals with language goals. And that is something that is quite new for a lot of countries. They are not using that quite a lot. So in CLIL didactics, it's not only the content goals, but also the language goals, and of course activating the student and activating the prior knowledge.
Discovery in the second case, conquering.
Yes, because our students are a bit talkative and they are so excited about the project. They are enthusiastic, but sometimes they are a bit nervous too. And I don't know what is going to happen, but it happens every lesson that you have. You don't know what is going to happen this day.
I think the success of a project like this, or the success of video conferencing, would be much, much higher if you have a separate room, a classroom, that's fully equipped, and for a teacher to simply get into the room or make reservations, something like that, and then being in that class, all you have to do is push a button. Otherwise, if you, as I did, as we all did, have to go to the classroom, install everything, it takes at least half an hour, perhaps even more. For me, to do it again next time would be a barrier, would be something I'm not looking forward to doing it, but it's making it less attractive. I think technical problems should be solved in the first place to facilitate the content of lessons like this. And that's a necessity.
Our experiences have shown that when you're doing a web conferencing lesson, you have to keep a few things in mind. One of the things is that you have to keep it short. Make sure that you don't have too much. Teachers always want to do a lot, and just have to keep your timing realistic. Your planning is very important. It's a key element when you're doing this. You have to plan everything meticulously, like a script. You have to plan everything. And finally, it's important that you don't lose your calm. When something goes wrong, just keep going, try to solve the problem, and move on.
So if you have contact, please go on. Yes,
do you think these projects will encourage our students' mobility? Yeah, of course. Of course, I agree with that. I also think that this project is very motivating, and this is very. My students are all very thrilled about the fact that they will be in contact with other students in Europe, because now Europe is closer than before, and we think that this is very, very important for us to keep in contact, to keep in touch. Of course, nowadays times and technology and all of these things are changing in a very quickly, and they all know that they are aware of the power of new technologies.
I've tried web conferencing within Asturias with another classroom in Asturias, and it was funny for students. They can meet students doing the same as they are doing, but not in Posada de Llanera, for example. And it's quite interesting for them to share points of view. So you can imagine how interesting it would be for them if they can share opinions and things with people all over the world. I think students would say yes immediately.
Hi, video. Do you know what presentation is loading right now?
Okay, we'll tell something about the political situation at the time. The VOC, the formation of the Dutch Republic. At 1581, we no longer had a king, so we became a republic, and we had 7 provinces, and so they were independent. They all had.
Break the connection as well. Yeah, because else. Can you hear us?
So we got a lesson from a Spanish teacher, and she told us about symbolism in paintings. We looked at a few paintings from Dutch painters like Vermeer. The painting was the geographer, and then both the Dutch and the Spanish students, they could tell what they saw in the picture from symbolism. And it was actually quite interesting, because the Dutch students, they have a very different opinion about what they see in the picture than the Spanish students. The Dutch students, they only look like the surface of the picture, so what they saw, and the Spanish students, they looked way deeper in the picture, like the symbolism of a globe and a key. That was quite interesting, because the Spanish students are younger than the Dutch students, but they were a bit smarter, because they looked deeper than just the surface of the picture, and that was very interesting.
I really want to thank the European Commission for giving us the resources to make this project work. And I truly hope that because of this collaboration between the Spanish and the Dutch networks and teachers, that they will continue this activities, to continue this collaboration in the near future, and a lot of people are inspired because of our unique program.
Can you repeat that, please?
What objects are in the geographer's hands? How are the soldiers represented? How is the landscape represented?
I think that these projects with the Holland people are very interesting, and we learn a lot of things with them.
I think this project was a great experience.
With this project we enjoy so much and we learn many new things. The normal classes are more boring than this, because here is different, it's a new experience and we learn more.
Yes, I have been in many international projects, and I do believe that I get a huge advantage out of that, because nowadays every time I open up my Facebook feeds or Twitter feeds, all I get are messages in Italian, German, English, French, Romanian and so on. And so I do believe that having these cross-border relationships results in a better cultural development, first of all, and secondly, my language skills do get a lot better from that. And I also believe that having these friends through international projects during high school time can result in, great relationships or even career opportunities after graduating high school.
I hear and I forget, I see and I remember, I do and I understand.